What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today, we are talking about Paul H. Smith. He is a remote viewer and a former participant of the CIA Stargate program, which was initiated to study remote viewing back in the 70s. And specifically, we're going to talk about some comments he recently made on the Third Eye Drops podcast.
Can we ask if this was part of the OSAP or ATIP programs?
Oh, it might have been.
Because you see, recently, Michael from Third Eye Drops reached out to me and said, hey, I just had this interview with Paul, and he said some interesting things that I think you'd want to cover on your show. So I've enlisted the help of Michael.
Patrick, thanks for sharing this nugget. I did find it to be a novel one for sure because...
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, y'all. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And I really need your help, y'all. Now, before we get into all of this, let's let Michael explain a little bit more about who Paul Smith is.
Major Paul Smith is a former Army intelligence officer and one of the remote viewers from the top secret Stargate program. He's also the author of Reading the Enemy's Mind and the Essential Guide to Remote Viewing. He also holds a PhD in philosophy and is just incredibly well-read on the history of psi and the application of psi.
Okay, so what is this all about? Basically, Paul mentioned that there was a remote viewing effort in an official capacity with OSAP, ATIP, right? About the Nimitz Encounter from 2004, but they remote viewed it in 2011 and many other things. So let's jump into this and check this all out. Now, make sure to stay tuned to the end because there's something Paul said as well that has nothing to do with the Nimitz that I found to be absolutely fascinating for the reason why aliens may be coming to Earth. And don't worry, we'll be getting to Michael's comments very soon of why he thinks what Paul said is so important. This main clip that I have here, where Paul's going to talk about Nimitz, remote viewing, and all these other things, I've broken it down into two parts. So here's part one.
So I've been had some involvement with UAP things in terms of remote viewing since 1983, but I've been kind of holding it at arm's length. I've seen some of my colleagues contaminate remote viewing, in my opinion, with all kinds of sensationalist claims and stories that really probably aren't true. I won't go too far with that because I don't want to name names, but I kind of tried to stay out of it, but I've not been able to because of, well, essentially the company I keep. I'm close friends with Hal Puthoff, and Ingo Swann, of course, was very much interested in ETs, particularly in their abilities to engineer and manipulate consciousness. And, John Alexander, he and I have been buddies for forever. And, there's a whole list of them I'm not going to go into. But I finally decided it was time to become serious about it with the Nimitz incident, which I had actually been exposed to in 2004. Not 2004, 2011. And that kind of brought me around because now we have very hard to refute evidence that these things are real. That whole Nimitz thing, in fact, I was talking to Jay Stratton about it at Phenomicon. That one incident, plus the others that are similar to it, have given us about the best evidence you could ask for anything, much less UAPs. I mean, multiple evidence streams, multiple independent evidence streams reporting the same phenomenon. We don't get better than that. The skeptics keep trying to debunk it, but it's clear they don't know what the heck they're talking about. So that's how I got into this.
All right. So basically at this point in the interview, Paul has just said something that has piqued Michael's interest in the back of his mind while he's doing this interview, right? So he's going to ask a follow-up question to find out a little bit more about what Paul is talking about when it comes to the Nimitz incident. And what Paul says next is what is so fascinating.
Quick follow-up, just curiosity question. How did that come across your plate in 2011? Did someone from the inside want to see what you thought about it, or?
I was hired to put together a team of people to remote view that incident
Wow.
through, as you can imagine, what was going on at the time. I have this NDA, and I'm not sure what I can say. Everybody else seems able to talk about it, but I apparently can't.
Can we ask if this was part of the OSAP or ATIP programs, Paul?
Oh, it might have been. Very, very high likelihood that it might have been, right?
It makes sense. I mean, you've got people like Hal Puthoff involved in that.
Oh, yes. He was our manager.
Why would they not want
He
that?
was our go-between, right? We didn't do a very good job for reasons I've since think I teased out. Unlike some of my other buddies, I won't claim to have had great success when I didn't have great success, right? But it was a marvelous effort. We had a building dedicated to our particular use. We created 3 gray remote viewing rooms like we used to have at Fort Meade. I had 3 monitors and 6 viewers and 2 analysts and a administrative assistant, and it was a full-fledged project for a full week. And I wish we'd had better success, but still, even just the very experience of it and the practice at doing a good operation was awesome. It was awesome.
That
might be
really
new
cool
information.
Yeah.
I think one day we're going to want to pry the results out of you, if that's ever going to be possible.
I don't have them, actually.
Oh, okay.
We were required to turn everything over to the contracting
That's fascinating.
agency, shall we say. And so I only have vague memories of what came out, but it really wasn't very well. It really didn't produce a lot of good information about that incident. And I didn't even know what the target was until later Hal, under the table, informed me about it.
Spilled the beans.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's extremely interesting.
Now, I do have my own thoughts on this, but before I get to that, I want to let Michael explain how he feels about this, because when Michael reached out to me and said, "Oh man, maybe you should cover this on your channel. It's kind of interesting. I found this to be interesting." I asked him to send me a video explaining why he thought it was interesting, right? Like, what does it imply? And this is what he sent me.
Patrick, thanks for sharing this nugget. I did find it to be a novel one for sure, because, first let me preface this by saying, of course, there are so many dubious stories that go around in this space, but when somebody like Major Paul Smith tells me a story like this, I pay attention, man, because not only have I gotten to know him, and I find him to be just a credible, believable person in general. This is somebody who was there, right? He was part of Project Stargate. He's a retired major, and he's gone just so deep on the history and the application of psi. Still teaches remote viewing, and for him to say that Hal Puthoff hired him as part of OSAP to, not just him, but a whole team of remote viewers during the OSAP program to secretly remote view the Nimitz Encounter. It's super fascinating stuff, man. And it implies, I've been so curious ever since I learned about Project Stargate, remote viewing, the intelligence community's classified interest in psi. I've had so many questions, particularly, are they still doing this stuff? Because if it works, how would they not still be doing it? And this is a small example of proof, seemingly, that they are still doing it, at least in some limited capacities. And I'm sure there's more going on. But yeah, man, I still have so many questions I really wish I would have asked during that podcast. But as you know, you just sort of get caught up in the stream of the conversation. But I also love that little moment where you can see Dolan also kind of raise his eyebrows, even knowing whoa, this is a piece of news right here. This is breaking news right here. At least in our little, weird, nerdy segment of the UFO sphere. Anyway, brother, hope you're well. Talk to you soon.
Love Michael's setup, by the way. How cool is that? Such a great guy. If y'all haven't checked out Michael from Third Eye Drops, please go check it out. His channel's amazing. He does amazing interviews. Production is off the charts. And he's just a great guy. So anyway, Michael makes a lot of great points, and he asks a lot of questions. And yeah, I can totally get why in the moment you just can't ask follow-ups. I totally get it. That happens a lot. But it is interesting, right? I think the biggest, there's a lot of things that come to mind, honestly. Like, one, Paul admits that it wasn't really that successful, right? So how often is that the case, right? So, but he also says, like, it was a good practice week. I think that's what he got out of it. Like, well, we got to do this for a week and see how it is. And, which makes me think they did it more times, right? And then what's the success rate there? And then you also ask, what else did they remote view, right? And it also says how important the Nimitz case was even back then, right? That they were still talking about this and thinking about this, right? Now, I know Ross Coulthard has come out and said it's Lockheed technology, but I think he's the only one saying it. Maybe a few people are. I don't know. It's a very interesting thing that they remote view it. Yeah, what does it imply? Does it imply that remote viewing is provable, that's why the government uses it? Or is it they just testing things still? That seems like a long time to just be testing things if you don't know if it works or not, right? If they've been doing this since the 70s, I mean, we're talking 60 years, 50 years later. Like, so maybe it implies that there's something to it. And that's why Paul and people around him are used in official capacities, right? Like this. And what's also interesting is that they did it for a week. Like they just, rented out some place and just took it over and, remote viewed. And so they just remote viewed the Nimitz that whole week. That's what I would have asked. You guys spent the whole week on Nimitz or other things? Because I don't think they would just spend the whole week on Nimitz, right? And maybe that was the only time they did it, right? I don't know. It does, bring up a lot of things, right? And do start to ask more questions. And if it was part of OSAP or ATIP, I mean, that's kind of two different things. Richard asking a great question there. But like, yeah, what is that where the money went? I mean, 2011, that's very late, right? That's definitely more end of OSAP, beginning of ATIP. Where's the money coming from? Is that part of the original OSAP $10 million? And if you're not familiar with any of this stuff, there's too much to go into this video. But you could basically just Google search, OSAP, ATIP. It was during that time. The Eric Davis, James Lukatsky, Colm Kelleher, Hal Puthoff, right? Clearly. But yeah, very interesting. I'm going to put a link in the description to the full interview with Paul and Richard on Michael's channel. I highly recommend going to check it out because they talk about a lot of different things. And if you remember the very beginning, I said there was something that Paul said that was very interesting, had nothing to do with the Nimitz. This is one of those examples of why I recommend going to check out the full interview. Listen to what Paul says here about why aliens might be visiting Earth. This is a fascinating theory I'd never heard.
The whole consciousness thing is how I tie into this. It's clear that ET has much more of an entree into using consciousness than humans do. And Ingo's belief that humans were much, he believed that we had latent potential that was far greater than what the ETs have, and they're afraid of us realizing that, and so they're intervening. Now, I keep, I take all this stuff with a grain of salt until we have actually evidence for it. I take it as a hypothesis to be established.
All right, so that's fascinating, right? Like, aliens are coming here because we can use our consciousness better. So they're coming here to stop us from reaching our full potential, our power. That's interesting. I never heard that before, right? What do y'all think about that? Let me know down in the comments. All right, betters, thank y'all so much for watching. Links in the description. We'll see you guys on the next one. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
Not sure I have a question. Just want to tell you I support you 100%. I'm a subscriber and a supporter financially, although quite minimal, to be honest. I just think you're brilliant. And keep doing what you're doing, and you're right on point with this lobe thing. I mean, after all, the whole landscape of UAP, UFO, all the military, private industry, religion, back into history, all these things. The landscape is wide. There's going to be various interests on the human side that split things off in different directions. But the point being, the aliens, we have to assume, have it a little more together than that. They're here. They've been here. They've been here for thousands, perhaps longer years ago than that. So I'm putting my stock with them and with you. Full stop.